Hi, Eddie Capparucci, Dr. Eddie Capparucci, but I'm going to. So we're getting ready to start the January edition of the Getting to the Other Side, helping couples navigate the road to recovery. So I'm so excited to have you here today. I know you're in transition, so taking time out to join us is a gift, and we're grateful. So, what
Well,
do you have for us today?
well, Tammy, one, I'm always grateful to be here, and I really enjoy, talking and answering questions that people may have with this. So again, welcome to everybody. Welcome to another edition of Getting to the Other Side, helping couples to navigate the road to recovery. And today I have two topics I want to cover off on. First is one, the concept of recovery in general. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the need for confidence when helping your partner to heal. Now, I know that sounds bizarre, but hopefully, if you stay with me for a while, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Let's dig in with topic number one. And again, that's the idea, the concept of recovery. Now, let's face it, we all understand recovery is difficult. It is a challenge. If it wasn't, we wouldn't call it recovery. It takes time, it takes commitment, dedication, takes energy. It also takes perseverance because we may not always get it right each and every time. There's people, they talk about and they say, sometimes, that relapse is part of recovery. And it is. We hope that it doesn't happen. I try not to promote that aspect of it, but it can happen at times. And what we're talking about in this circumstance is not just the recovery of one person. We have two that are trying to deal with it. We have the person who has the problematic sexual behaviors going on, who need to recover from that, and how do they learn how to manage their issue. But then on the other side, what we have are the individuals who are trying to deal with the betrayal and the pain. So therefore they have their own recovery. So you have two different things that are going on at the same time, and while related, they are very different. They look different, they feel different, and that can cause a lot of issues. And I'm going to get more into that with the second topic, but let's stay here again about this idea of the concept of recovery. And I've been thinking about it over the past couple months. And I just wonder, could it be that recovery may be actually easier than we think it is? And what I mean by that is, let's look at the process. Let's look at what happens, what goes wrong in our life. Well, the first thing that goes wrong is life in general. Life throws a lot of stuff at us, and we're not quite sure where it's going to come from, what direction is it going to hit us in, what the intensity of the impact that's going to happen. And so with that, we can get, knocked off our feet by different things that happen. So circumstances, they change, and not all circumstances, as you well know, are positive. In fact, many of them are negative. What happens then is the fact that with that negativity, anxiety increases. Now, I'm talking about the people who are dealing with, sexual addiction, pornography addiction, problematic sexual behaviors, whichever topic, whichever title we want to give it. But basically, their anxiety starts to rise because of the negative circumstances that go on. And with that anxiety happening in many cases prior to starting their recovery, that anxiety is rather a muted discomfort, right? Not quite sure what it really is about. And because you're probably running so quickly in so many different directions, you may not even be aware that your anxiety is there in the first place. So, with that muted discomfort, what happens is our risk of acting out has increased. Okay? So, therefore, you have increased anxiety because of circumstances changing, anxiety increases. The muted discomfort increases. Now your risk of acting out has increased. And it's interesting because there's many people who I work with that, they'll walk in and they're in their recovery and they're doing very well. But then they start talking to me about the different circumstances that are going on in their life. And you can see that they are very, very stressful in many areas. And I usually ask the question, I go, so, tell me, do you think your level of risk is increased? And it's very interesting how many of them say, no, no, I don't have any urges. And I say, that's not the question. That was not the question. I didn't say, do you have urges? The question was, has your risk increased? And it has. You may not have at this moment any urges or temptations, but if those circumstances do not change, if you continue to just let them go because you're just running with your head down, oblivious to them, and another negative thing happens, now all of a sudden you may find yourself more overwhelmed with temptations and urges for something. So therefore, again, go back to that idea of mindfulness of what's going on. So yeah, if you think, if you're in recovery and you think, oh, you know what, I'm good. I don't really have any urges. I have no temptations. Think again, because again, what is going on mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? You folks have heard me say that many, many times. The idea of being drained in one of those four areas or multiple areas, because that's when bad things will happen. So once again, what do we have? Changing circumstances, increase in negativity in our lives, an increase in our anxiety, the muted discomfort grows, the risk now increases. So basically, what's the solution to all of that? Well, a couple things. As I said before, first and foremost, are you mindful enough of what your anxiety factors are? Do you know what is going to activate, as you know, with me, our inner child and get him all stressed out? Because if you understand that and realize, oh, okay, you know what that person just did, giving me a sense of rejection. Ooh, rejection's one of my top three. Oh, okay. That now this muted discomfort no longer muted. I know what it is. I am now empowered. Okay, because I know what's going on. So first and foremost, we need to understand what are those anxiety factors that you have. The second aspect is to take action against those factors that you can control. Okay, so therefore, let's say I'm feeling a sense of rejection. Well, you know what? I can control that because although I feel rejected, what's reality? Well, reality may be that I wasn't rejected at all if I try to go through and sort out my thought. But even if someone did reject me, okay, I could still go back to say, okay, well, while that hurts, that doesn't mean it's, that person defines who I am. Okay, it just means that that person had a preference and they had an option, they had choices, and that's the choice they made to say, no, sorry, okay, fine. Just like we do too. We have the same issue. We reject people also at times. So therefore, again, it becomes the mindset of what you're doing. I can control those kind of things that go wrong in my life. Okay. If my finances are starting to get out of whack, well, you know what? Maybe I can start to look to say, how do I scale things back? How do I change things up? Do I go get a part-time job somewhere, whatever? There may be things that you can control. So you take action to reduce some of that negativity, therefore reducing the anxiety. And also, so after that, then there are also those circumstances I can't control. Okay, I can't control if I have a chronic illness, or if someone I know and love has a chronic illness. I can't control what other people say and do. All right, that I can't. I can control how I allow those people act with me, but I can't control them. So therefore, what do you do with that? Well, therefore, I have to process that. That is that the negativity. I have to hold on to that pain and I have to process it instead of, because what we do is we run away. We're runners. We never sit with emotional distress. We just got to run and find a distraction for it. But here we're going to learn to sit with it. So then it becomes, okay, what's the process of, you know, sitting with, what is the process of sitting with pain? Well, one is I allow myself to feel it. I allow myself to feel it. I'll give you a quick little story. I had a client who they did a disclosure, and she said, look, you know what? I need some time away, which is rather normal for that. She goes, I'm going to go back home. You go to our house down in Florida. And that's what he did. He went down there. And while he was there for the one night. He really struggled the first night. And anyway, he was talking to a friend, and his friend's like, oh, I'll come over. So his friend came over. His sister only lives a couple miles away. They went over to his sister's house. They're hanging out. They're all, chit-chatting, blah, 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 this and that. So his wife calls to check and see how you doing. And he goes, oh, well, John's here and I'm hanging out with, Terry, and, we're just, having a, just casual time. She was furious. She was furious. Now, for you guys who, guys and women who are more the betrayers, and you may be wondering, why is she upset? Well, because you know what? She's sitting up here, she's processing, she's sitting with this pain of what she just went through, and she's expecting that he's going to be down there processing through his own pain also. Right? Does that not make sense? And even if he's not thinking about his own pain, he should be maybe thinking about what she's going through, which could be causing him to have a lot of distress. He didn't do that. And when I talked to him about it, because the first thing his wife said when it was going on, he goes, I don't quite understand. And he was like, she goes, you need to talk to Eddie. Eddie will explain it to you. And that's what I did. I explained it to him last week, and I told him, I go, you ran away. You did exactly what you do when you were marred in your addiction. You just did it again. And he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But that's part of it. We sit with the discomfort. All right. Now, we don't wallow in the discomfort. We don't stay there forever. At some point, we need to pull ourselves back from that discomfort. And what do we do there? Well, then we go and we find support. Who's that good friend I can call to say, hey, you know what? Really been hurting right now about what I've been thinking about and what I'm going through. And then we look for those healthy lifelines that we can bring in to help replenish us so that we can go back to our functioning. Because see, when you're sitting there with your discomfort, what you're doing is you're grieving, which is what's necessary. You need to learn how to grieve. So if you think about it, so here it is. Once again, the recovery process. I identify, I know that negative, consequences are going to come. I know what those negative consequences are that happen that will activate my kid, that will get me where my muted anxiety will increase, my anxiety will increase. But if I know what those are, I can then take action for those that I can control, do something, to those I can't control, to be able to process and then be able to sit with that discomfort and then be able to find support and healthy lifelines so that I can manage my distressors. And I think about that and I said, wow, could recovery be that simple? And in a way, I think maybe it could. Now, there's a lot more that's involved, however, especially when it comes to the area of shame, guilt and shame. I mean, because shame is that part at the very beginning of the process that just can undermine everything and keep you from getting on the track you need to get on. But that is why it's important to be able to deal with that shame and to be able to again process that pain that you have, but and to understand, hey, guess what? We're all broken creatures. We're all broken. And when we go back to the idea of why did I do what I did, Again, for you folks who have listened to me over the last year or so, you understand that I am a big believer in the fact that a lot of it has to do with unresolved childhood pain points. It is the way we got programmed, the way we got hardwired, and we can fix that. We can make that better. And it's not that the pain will go away, but we can learn how to, one, identify I even have that pain, and two, be able to desensitize it. So you have to learn how to deal with that shame. We need to learn how to become more emotionally connected. Because again, 9 out of 10 who are dealing with this, they have low emotional IQs. And we need to learn how to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. As you've heard me say before, ooh, that dirty word that we don't want to hear, vulnerable. I can't open myself up. That's going to put me in a weak position. Well, let's say if I hold on to that idea that, ooh, it's going to maybe be trouble if I'm vulnerable, I can then move forward and be vulnerable. And yeah, it may not turn out well, but most likely it will turn out well in most cases. And if it doesn't, okay, it didn't. We'll try it again, and we'll try it again, and we'll try it again. And why? Because it's the right thing to do. It's the healthy thing to do versus the unhealthy thing that got you watching this webinar in the first place. And that's what we want to try to do. We want to try to do the right things. We need to be outwardly focused. Again, spent way too much time on us. And that's the biggest thing. I go back, I sound like a broken record today. Sorry, but I go back to this emotional pain. I don't want to sit with it. Okay, that's inwardly focused. I need to sit with it because I need to process it. So therefore, I don't go off and do something that is going to cause pain to other people. That's outwardly focused. And finally, that need for community, to be able to be in group, to have those support mechanisms surrounding you, to be able to give you the outlet for those times when you are struggling, when you're doing that work you need to do, holding on to that pain, that you can also be talking to somebody about it. So there's a lot more, but I do believe, if you think about it, that the concept of recovery can become a very simplistic process if, and again, this is the key, if we're going to do the work we need to do to be able to identify what causes that anxiety that makes me want to run, and then learning how to be able to sit with that anxiety and process it in a very healthy way. So let me turn briefly to my second topic for today, and that is the struggle to communicate, the struggle of communication when discussing the topic of betrayal. And again, any of you who are on this, you know, watching this today, you know what I'm talking about here. And I understand that, over the time that I've been doing this, that you hear the complaints from those who've been betrayed, that when they're in the conversation, that the answers that they are receiving, some of the complaints they'll say is it seems like it's scripted. It's like, you just have it all lined out how you want to communicate this to me. And it sounds like you're a robot doing it. Two, it's very vague. You don't get into any kind of really details. You just keep it on this 10,000-foot level. You don't dive in and share more with me. You're just giving me the basics of what you feel is going on. It seemed very insecure. I mean, insincere, very insincere. It doesn't seem to be coming across as you really mean this. And finally, it seemed like a bunch of lies. It seemed like a bunch of lies, more, more, more. So what's going on here? Why are these things popping up? Why are those who betrayed, why do you have such difficulty staying in this dialogue? Well, one is the idea of shame that we talked about before, but two, it's more along the lines of fear. Fear is at the heart of it. So fear of what? Well, fear of one, I'm going to say the wrong thing. Okay. I got to say something, and you're not going to be happy with it. You're not going to like my answer. It's just not going to be a good thing. Two, I'm going to take an emotional situation that's going on right now, and I'm going to make it worse. And I don't want to make it worse. In fact, I want this to go away. I want this to die down. I want to kill it. How do I do that? Because the third fear is I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble, and I want to get out of trouble. So therefore, because of this, all of this, so what do they do? What do those who have been betrayed when you're in this conversation, what is their action? Well, one could be they say nothing or little. Two, they get defensive. Okay? They're trying to justify their position, what's going on. Three, they just say, you know what, I can't, and they withdraw. Or they can withdraw right in front of you by saying nothing. It's just like they sit there and they wilt and that. But the worst to me of any reaction is you are trying to think about what does my partner want to hear? What do they want to hear? Because that's the answer I'm going to give. And you know what? Two things. One, you're usually very wrong about what you think they want to hear. Right? And two, they can see right through it. And this, when we go back to the thing, it's just not sincere. And why? Why are you doing this with that fear? But what's happening is there's no confidence. There's no confidence because once again, the shame is kicked in and I want to shut this thing down. I don't want to do it. Okay. Therefore, I'm going to either try to be aggressive, I'm going to try to shut down, I'm going to say nothing, go back to all those things I just said before, versus, hey, you know what? I'm going to own what I did. I own it. I did this. Okay? This is my stuff. And no, I don't really like looking at it, but I have to look at it because you need to look at it. You have to look at it every day. And I should have never given it to you to look at in the first place, but that's the burden you now face because of me and my insensitive actions. I've given that to you. It's like a nightmare that just runs in your head over and over and over again. But yet I'm sitting here and saying, no, I don't want to watch that. You take that to the other room, please. Okay, can you go over there and deal with that? Because I just I don't have it within me to deal with that. Well, you know what? Too bad. And this is the part again about the emotional maturity. You can't have confidence unless you have the emotional maturity. And I'm talking to you guys who are, not just in your, early 20s or, mid or late 20s. I'm talking about you guys who are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Okay. I'm talking about me too. Okay. I was there too, emotionally immature. It's all about me. And it can't be because that's why I need the confidence. And the confidence is, okay, yes, I own this. This is mine. I put it in your life. I regret that so much. But the least I can do right now is I can be here for you as you're going through this. Okay, that I'm not going to give in to the fear. I'm not going to give in to my shame. Instead, I'm going to confront this as a grown adult. And yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to feel ugly. It may get ugly, but that's part of the consequences of what has gone on here. See, that's the thing. We don't want to live with consequences. Ooh, guess what I'm going back to? I don't want to sit with my emotional pain. See how it all kind of links together, folks? It really does. I don't want to sit with these consequences. Can you please get over it? No. No. I mean, you know what? If it was that easy, then you know what? Then that means there really wasn't a whole lot of passion and love there in the first place. So what needs to be done if we finish this up today? You can answer some questions that you may have. I'm going to go back to my usual first and favorite thing to say to everybody. Slow everything down. Yes, yes, it looks like, oh my gosh, I got the storm coming. No, I don't have a storm. I have pain that's occurring. There's hurt that's occurring. There's betrayal that's occurring. There's trauma that's occurring. That's what I have. I need to confront the fear. Okay, what's the fear? Oh, this could go really wrong. This could be a long night. This could be ugly. Okay, but I'm not going to throw any gas onto this fire. Okay, I'm not doing that. And I'm definitely not going to try to put it out because she needs or he needs to do what he has to do at this point to grieve. So I have to sit with this. That means there's no being defensive. Right? That means there's no withdrawing. It means there's no trying to figure out what does he or she want to hear. There's no sugarcoating. There's no justifying. You know what there is? Speaking from the heart. Based on what you're telling me, this is what I think I hear you saying how you feel. And that also, this is how it's making me feel. Speaking from the heart, being real. Can we finally learn to be real versus the facade that we put on for so many years because we didn't know any better for that? That's what confidence is. That confidence that I can speak from my heart. And I may not even always be right with what I say from the heart, but yet it is from the heart. At least it'll look genuine. And now we are one step ahead in that aspect. The idea of lying, the idea of, trying to gaslight and all that, those go away because it comes across as, yes, sincerity. So what are the benefits of that? The benefits is that your partner feels validated. They feel like they're heard. Most importantly, they feel safe. And if there's no safety, there's no reconnection. If there's no safety, you will sit in this swamp forever or until somebody finally says, I'm done. So that's what I got for you this week, Tammy.
Great stuff. Yeah, I like, yes, yes, yes. When you're talking about recovery being simple, I do think it is simple. I don't think it's necessarily easy because it is so against what we typically do. Like you said, the run, 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 absolutely everybody run, run, run. Rather than going, okay, this is simple, but it's going to be challenging and confronting the pain, having to deal with things, and I was thinking too with addicts who don't do a very good job of, sounding genuine. And I think early on, they don't even know how to be genuine. So it is like you have to practice your way into it. So it does sound,
Right.
remote control and robotic and all of that kind of stuff. But it's just such a learning process, with all of that. But, like you said, do it again, do it again, do it again. And, and the more, it's like anything else, the more we practice it, the easier it gets, the more genuine it will feel,
Right.
the more natural. I was thinking, I talked to somebody recently, and like the stuff you were talking about early on, what this particular person has been doing to minimize relapse is, because I agree with you. Do you think you're at risk? That's where we need to, because I don't have the urge, because as soon as I get the urge, it's gone, like I'm off and running, and so really being mindful of that. In program we talk about hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Well, this particular person, struggles with anxiety and shame, and has a few other things. And for this person, the realization that, if I'm, if I'm up to a 5, I'm okay. As soon as I hit 6, I'm at a 10. Like there's no slowing it down, and then there's a relapse, and then it's this, all of
Yes.
that type of thing. So being very mindful of, okay, I was at a 2 yesterday, and today I'm at a 4, and that means I'm going to be at a 5 or 6 soon. What do I need to do to address the shame today so that I can
Mm-hmm.
get it back down to a
Right.
2? So that mindfulness, intervening before, while I'm maybe at risk, but I haven't got the compulsion,
No.
is so key to helping us,
If if we don't do that, we're going to fail because we
Yes.
need to understand what is going on. What is my body telling me? Our body is it's a great barometer for what is going on and how it's going to ultimately impact us emotionally and mentally. So therefore, I have to constantly throughout the day, am I doing all right? Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to get a sense of, ooh, okay, you know what? Not doing that well today. Oh, okay, you know what? Risk is increased, but I don't have any urges. Doesn't matter. The risk is still increased. Okay, you're right. Risk is increased. What am I going to do to bring that risk back down? I think I lost Tammy for a moment. So
Oh, did
hopefully, oh,
y'all?
there you go. There you go. You're
Okay.
back. You're back.
Yeah. Eh,
Either that or you went to sleep. I don't know
Yeah,
though.
no, I'm paying complete attention. So what I love about this particular, because it's like really easy to go, oh, I'm fine, like in our little attic brain, we're fine, so like this person was specific, like laying out the, like the hungry, angry, lonely, tired, but it was anxiety, shame. I mean, they're specific things,
Right.
and monitoring it every single day, because otherwise it's like, oh, well, last week I paid attention to it. I mean, I think it's so easy for us as addicts to just let things slide, and then we relapse, and then we're like, what happened? And so
Right.
so if we aren't intentional, every single day, which is part of the simple, you know,
Correct.
just
But
be mindful.
but
Go ahead.
what we should also be adding to our the tools that we have is meditation every day, morning, mid afternoon, or evening, whatever, but twice a day, even if it's just 5 minutes. That meditation, because what that's doing is teaching us to be able to sit, to be still, to focus, and then say, like right now, like kind of just doing this right now, and I realize, whoa, man, you know what, my back, I got a knot back here, which I wasn't thinking about before, but now I feel I'm feeling it. It's like, okay, so imagine you sit with that knot all day long. You know what? It's gonna have an effect on your mood. And then you're gonna wonder, why am I like that? Well, because you haven't taken the chance to figure out what's going on. So
And yeah, I have been mindful. I have a great therapist, and she was like, you need to be intentional. So I don't start my day without do I've picked some things that are uplifting and motivating and positive for me to start my day. I am intentional about what I let come into my life, because there's so much negativity out there, and I get really triggered by all of that, and
mm-hmm.
and it changes my mood. And then so I have been very intentional about monitoring my positive and negative emotional state. And if I'm feeling down, or like I'm sliding down the scale, I go, okay, what do I need to do? And so, just like you're saying, that mind, I'm not great at meditation. I'm much better at going and picking something up to read that is positive. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I need an active input, apparently, instead of just, me,
Yeah,
but
and
whatever works.
you also go and you do your hiking and things like that, and that too. You're out there, you're in nature, and that's fine. It's a different form of meditation if you
It
think about
is. Yeah, and that is, you're right. And that is very clarifying and helpful for me. And even when I'm out, like this picture behind me, that was one of my sunrise, runs. I was intentional, because it was lovely. I stopped, I took a photo, kept going, so I try to be very intentional about what I'm looking at and seeing, while I'm out and about,
it.
in those moments too. So,
Right. So at
so
the somebody just wrote, thank you. This has helped point out great pointers for both the addict and the betrayed partner, and they said it was encouraging. And I'm glad that you got something from that. Again, I really do believe that the communication aspect of it, we need a sense of confidence that we have to build in order to be able to, you know, help those who we've hurt. We're not going to be able to do it if we're so caught up in our own emotions and feelings and fear and wondering what's going to happen. Is this going to get worse and whatever? Then I'm no good. I can't help you. And that, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, great. So you've abandoned me again. you've abandoned me again. And that's when we go back to the idea of the change, the transformation of the heart, that that is what those who've been betrayed need to see. They need to see real change, because your words are just wah 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 wah.
Yes, yeah, the lies, you've told me for 10 years that, you were faithful to me and whatever, and we know that that's a lie. So we talk often about actions. It really is actions. And I remind people sometimes that, we, our emotional discomfort isn't going to kill us. It's going to be uncomfortable, but it's like no one has died of emotional discomfort to the best of my knowledge.
No, I don't think so.
So we do have a question. So if you
Yes.
have questions, please put them in the Q&A. Would love to hear from you guys. What would you advise for a betrayed partner who is going through the process alone? Thank you for the affirmation, because I did not ask to be cheated on. Of course not. And deceived for many years. And now I'm dealing with struggling alone because of what he has done to me, and on top abandoned me.
Yeah,
So
it's a double whammy now, right? A double whammy. It's like, okay, you here he went out, betrayed, and now ran away again. Um, so yeah, what's the advice? One, surround yourself with a great support team. You cannot go through this alone. It is not going to be helpful for you, because by doing that, what happens? You get caught in your own head, and you just start ruminating over all different thoughts and such. You need that outlet that you can be able to engage and talk to people about what's going on, and even hearing their stories, and again, I'd encourage you maybe to be in a couple, depending on what your bandwidth is, that you maybe be in a couple groups, not just one, maybe one or two. And I'm sure, Tammy can help you in that area with that. Also having that real support person, that one person that you mentor who's been through all of this and can kind of guide you through. I think that's really important. Um, but I think also, and I know if, again, I'm not sure what the timing is and all of this, but at some point you have to start to look and say, okay, so how do I get back on my feet again? And how do I start to learn to live life again? All right. Not that we want to run away from this. We don't. You have to process it, because if not, it will haunt you, forever. But at some point, it has to be, yeah, you know what? It's time for me to take other steps. And Tammy, you've worked with a lot of women who've been through this. What are some of your thoughts with it?
well, the thing I thought about immediately was he abandoned you, but I was like, but was he ever really with you? I mean, because
Hmm.
so technically, yes, he has now left the relationship from what I'm reading, but I'm like, was he ever really a true partner with you? And I suspect if, in your heart of hearts, that was never the case. He was lying, he was cheating, he was all about him. Eddie talked about, like, if you're self-centered, that is, I mean, he isn't looking out for you or your relationship. He was all about him and doing what he wants to do. So physically leaving, yes, he physically left, but I'm going like, was he ever emotionally there? So I couldn't help but think about, journaling, but journal the
Oh,
clarity and reality of, like, what was it really like? Because I think it's really easy to get caught up into, but I loved him so much and all of that type of thing, which you did. I'm not knocking that, but what was the reality of the relationship? And when, where were the points where he really was all into the relationship? And I suspect if you do that, kind of like the autopsy on the relationship, you'll realize that, his abandonment he couldn't really abandon because he was never really there. So but yeah, looking at how you can heal and move on from here,
I-
because otherwise it's like he gets to have this hold on you forever, or for how long. So you deserve to have, healthy connections with people who can attach in a healthy way. And there's people out there. So
Mm.
um,
But I will
that
say
was my
this,
thought.
I will
Yeah.
say this though, even though you're right, you are absolutely right. You may have never been there, and therefore, you know, you can't be abandoned by someone who wasn't there. It certainly does feel like
Oh,
abandonment.
absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get that, but I'm also thinking like if I can, like if I can get myself into that a little
Oh
bit
yeah, that
higher level
mindset.
thinking, yeah, yeah. If I just go, what really did he abandon?
Right.
And
Because
so
then it becomes the idea that did you really lose anything? You may have
yeah,
thought, but see, you may have
yeah,
thought you lost something because you're thinking, hey, I got the right marriage, I got a good marriage, I got a good situation, and then you find out no, it was all a farce. But then it gets to the point where you then say, yeah, you know what? I didn't have what I have. You have to grieve that loss. But
yes,
after you grieve it, then you go to the point that you said, okay, let me accept it for what it was. And it wasn't much.
yeah.
Okay.
It was all in on your part.
Right. Correct. It was all
Yeah,
me.
so yeah,
So,
like if you're all in and you're doing all the heavy lifting, you know, and painful, I get that, but I believe I was talking to somebody who spent a period of time with someone and the relationship didn't work out. Deep grief and feeling like she'd wasted X amount of years. And I'm like, but and it isn't all horrible, it
right.
isn't that black and white. But I also go, I think we really learn, like I take the lessons I've learned in other situations, relationships, whether they're, romantic or not, and I bring all of that forward. And so that I can, like you said, I'm practicing, I'm learning to do it differently and
Yes.
better, hopefully, with each iteration. So that, I mean, the marriage I have now, I could have never had, with my ex. Like we that was never going to happen.
Right.
I wish him well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm free, but
Mm,
anyway, so I have the ability now to have something very different. I
mm-hmm.
learned. So
Right. Right. We
so
learn.
yeah. So somebody said, "Are you familiar with Faster?" Yes. Somebody
Yep.
on one of these had shared that, and I actually did look it up. Yes, any of those, those scales. So it's just a monitoring. There's the picky. Dr. Carnes created the picky. So personal
Mm-hmm.
craziness index. So anything that you can do that just actually monitors the things that are specifically triggers for you, I think that that's critically important, even as a betrayed partner. I mean, honestly, like, if as a betrayed partner, if you go, gosh, my guilt, my shame, or whatever, I'm feeling it more today. Well, what are concrete things that, I know I can do? Like you said, I go for a run, I go for a hike. What are concrete things I can do to help me shift, and move the number to somewhere where, it's more tolerable and I'm not, as stressed out. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. No. These types of assessments are really good. I have clients who do them every day, and they just sit there. And for you folks who don't know what FASTER is, the FASTER scale is, it is just a series of 6 different areas that you're looking at: restoration, forgetting, priorities, anxiety, speeding up, ticked off, or exhausted, and relapse. And it lists of different things that you could be struggling with, and therefore you go in, you highlight it, and therefore you now, okay, I'm aware of where I'm drained in these different areas. So yes, good tool, good tool.
yes. Yeah. And, there's a lot of tools. So find what works
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Right.
Like it isn't one thing is right for everybody, but find what works
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, faster is pretty complex. There's a lot in there, and some people say, "Oh, can I find something simpler?" And there are things that are available.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Okay. So the next question, D-Day was November 1st. My essay had an affair and is progressed porn addict, etc. He is stuck in shame and is still lying, defensive, withdrawing, etc. Speaks to me very aggressively. What am I supposed to do?
Well, first I
Hmm.
get them to sit down and watch this webinar. So you get a sense, and plus there's a lot of other webinars that are here in sex and
Sex
relationship
and relationship healing.com.
healing.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And see, she gets out before I did. But there's so many resources here, and you need to become more educated and aware of your pain and the hurt and your trauma, Because again, that's what you're saying, where you say the lying, the defensiveness, the withdrawing, it's because he wants to shut it down. Now he may sit there and say, well, I don't want to hurt you anymore. I don't want you to experience any more of that. And very well may be true. There are people who are like, I just I want to protect them from any more pain, but that's, you're not protecting, you're just making the situation worse. So I would have him look at some of the resources that are available on that site. There's that one book that I really do like. Well, you have Out of the Doghouse, right, by
Yes.
Dr. Rob. That's a good one
Hmm.
there. And then How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair. And even if it wasn't an affair, okay, but in your case it said it wasn't an affair, but How to Help Your Spouse Heal from the Affair is a very small book, but it really gives great insight on what you're going through, and hopefully that can be an awakening for him.
And I had, so first of all, email me, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. I've got a bunch of resources for you, but
Can you give
you
that? Can you
know,
give that email one more time?
sure, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com.
Ah,
Email me and email me where you're located, because so here's the deal. He's stuck in shame. That is so useless. That is, that is a burden he is carrying, and it is not helping either of you. I'm
mm,
glad you're here. I really hope that that you're plugging into. There's a Betrayed Partner group today at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. There's another one tomorrow morning. There are so many Betrayed Partner resources that you can get support. But what are you supposed to do? The more you set solid boundaries of, here's what I need to see from you. It really works. Dr. Rob talks about this all the time on our webinars. I will send you that information, I promise, if you email me.
mm,
But I feel bad I feel horrible for you, but I feel bad for him, because he is choosing to wallow in the shame and be stuck, rather than taking the simple
mm-hmm.
steps
Right.
to do things differently. It's
Yeah.
not complicated. It's
Mm-hmm.
not always easy, but it's simple. So,
But Tammy brings up a really good point about the boundaries. Okay, you need to have clear cut boundaries with them, that there are behaviors you will not accept. All right. And there are things you expect to be done. You expect him to be doing recovery work. You expect him to be in a group. But then again, remember about boundaries. Boundaries are only effective if there are consequences. So therefore, you have to lay out, okay, what's the consequence if you do not do this? Because again, and I've seen this happen where a couple, they're dealing with this. He's not really doing what he needs to do. He's too, as I said, caught up in his own shame. He's so inwardly focused. They go through this dance for 6 months, a year, and then they try to come in therapy. And oh man, I mean, we are, as opposed to being stuck in mud that's knee deep, we're neck deep. And it takes so much more work and effort and energy to be able to get that, to pull you out of it. So therefore, it's like, you know what? We need to take action. We need to take it now. Are you committed to this relationship or not? And again, that depends on you, how much resolve you have for that, but also, are you willing to put forth, these are my boundaries, and I need you to do this for me. So
and boundaries are for your safety. I
yes.
mean, like that is torment, living with this for, 2.5 months of, and nothing really changing. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. So I mentioned to Eddie at the beginning of this, before I hit record, that, one of the recent alum of our Seeking Integrity treatment program, which is just for men, said, plain and simple, seeking integrity changed the trajectory of my life. That's what we do, is we break down through all that shame and all that. I had a wife that contacted me right after. It was like within 24 hours of that comment, and she said, he's changed. I can see he's changed. And her guy had only been out about a month. The other one had been, I think, last summer, but I, details are,
Mm,
I'm not going to, don't quote me on that, but that's what we want to do, is help them move in a more this takes a lot of time, it's a big process, but in a shorter amount of time with expert treatment, we really can help, people change. So reach out.
Right.
So we've
Okay.
got a couple things in the chat
Yep.
too. I'm also in it alone as a man, and my wife is living outside the home. I'm struggling letting go, knowing how to grieve the betrayal and the double whammy. How do I grieve well? Oh, that's
Yeah.
just hard. Yeah.
I know. Sorry. Again, we are sorry to hear that and what you're going through. Um, there is no grieving well. Okay. There's grieving. Um, and that's what needs to be done. But also, again, and I don't know what the timing is here. How long have it been since you've been alone? Um, but as you're going through the idea of the loss, the betrayal, the fact of being abandoned, and you feel that pain, and then you reach out to the people who can come and support you. And I hope that you have a support network, and looking for a support group for men who have been betrayed. But to have that ability that you can be able to process what that hurt is, while at the same time thinking, okay, you know what will my new life be? What do I need to do to start to move on? But again, you need to do that grieving first. But how do you grieve well? You grieve well by grieving. Grieve, and then you go and you function. And then something's going to hit you out of the blue, and boom, you go back to grieving again. And you get tired of it, you start functioning. And over time, those grieving periods become less and less, and the functioning periods become more longer and longer. And with that, you find relief or some peace at some point. So anyway, good luck to you. But you got to get yourself surrounded by some good people to help you.
Well, and I put in the chat, Sophia Cottle did a Super Saturday Recovery Summit video. Again, email me if you want the direct link, but it's on intherooms.com. Eddie has done a Super Saturday Recovery Summit for that platform as well, but she leads 2 grief groups specifically on that platform, which I think,
Mm,
I mean, she facilitates that. That may be a useful tool for you to plug into, free resource. So check that out. That might be helpful as well. So,
okay.
but I agree with you. There's no graceful way to go through grief. It's just it's a messy process. So
Okay. He was saying it's been 5 months. It's early. Okay. It's early in
yeah.
that process. Yeah, it's time, my friend. I'm sorry. It's going to take some time. And again, you deal with the pain, the loss of it. And then again, but you have to have those people in your life that you can help to process that with.
So the next, another one in the comments. My partner has only just started to deal with sex addiction, and in the past, he has acted out most when we argued. That's a trigger, and have been in a bad place in our relationship. The tension is dealing with the betrayal as a couple is causing a lot of the same fear triggers for him, and he is struggling to manage the feelings that are getting triggered by our arguing. Do you have
Hmm.
any tips for him to manage the stress? He tends to slip into defensive behaviors, and that causes more problems from us.
Right, right. Okay. Well, first and foremost, so what I'm reading here and seeing is that he's saying that he gets triggered when you guys are arguing. Okay. That's not enough information for me. I need to drill down more to understand what is it that he's really feeling. Is it the sense that I'm in trouble? Could that be what really going on with him? And therefore, then he can sit there. See, it's hard to process the idea of, well, we're arguing and I can't, I got triggered by us arguing. One, that's not fair to you because, we're in an argument. And two, it's not helpful for him because he doesn't really understand what's really going on beneath the surface. So let's say it is this idea that he have a fear of I'm in trouble. Then he has to understand and go through and try to figure out, all right, where did that come from? How did it begin? But also, wait a second. Yes, while I'm in trouble here right now, she's not arguing with me because she wants me just to know you're in trouble. She's trying to show me her pain. She's trying to demonstrate I am hurting, and can you help me with this pain? And that's what it is. And he needs to look at it from that viewpoint. Again, looking outward and seeing your pain versus looking inward and saying, ooh, what does this mean to me? So first and foremost, what he has to do is sit and he has to process, why am I really upset? Why do I get triggered when we argue? Because like I said, it's much deeper than what just an argument.
And I had three things that came to mind. First of all, we've talked before on different webinars and different things about, having, instead of it just being an argument, is there a time that you can set where it's a scheduled time to discuss things? And then that's kind of the safe zone that you go for 20 minutes. We're going to talk about whatever issues are coming up so that they don't just escalate to an argument, but you can both be heard, And then Kristen Snowden has used the story I'm telling myself. So if when he's, getting defensive, you are able to say the story I'm telling myself when you get defensive is that you don't really want to hear me or you don't want to engage or whatever, but that takes it out of like Eddie was doing the finger point, it's not about that. And then third, on our Seeking Integrity site, we have online resources. One of them is a couples healing from betrayal workshop, and communication skills are part of that. There's one in progress. We'll start another one probably March, April at the latest. So again, email me if you'd like some information on that. But I think, having a discussion and not having it get to an argument, you should be heard, but is there a different way to do it so that you can have the discussion and get the information heard? So that was one of my thoughts. So
we have
okay,
two more, Tammy. We
yes,
got one in the chat and we got one on the Q&A. So
let's start with the Q&A. Two and a
okay.
half years from D-Day and still sitting in the swamp. That's horrible and painful. That's my add-on. I kicked him out a year and a half ago for the continued lying, avoiding answering my hundreds of questions after 30 years of what I thought was a wonderful marriage, saying he's answered them all, stonewalling, angry, lying. I feel he's not really in recovery. You're right. That's not recovery. He might not be acting out, but he's not in recovery. If he can't be honest and authentic with me and take responsibility for what he's done, is that correct? Yes. He can still be in recovery, but not honest and authentic with me. No.
No, right. No, recovery is not it's not partial. It's like, well, I'm doing all my work I need to do here. But the work is actually about learning to be honest and authentic. I mean, it's being real. That's what I go back to before. Like I said, I would send this link to him so he can see this. It is about being, true to yourself so that you can be true to your partner. And therefore, my guess is what it sounds like here, if again, there seems to be a lot of shame that he just doesn't want to address. And therefore, while he may be doing some recovery work, he's not doing everything that is required. Because again, we go back to the idea of ultimately, we don't want to just change that behavior. All right, okay, I'm no longer acting out. What we want is the change of the heart, the transformation. So again, that's where I would send him this link and let him see what that looks like and see if he can then maybe talk to you about it. And if he's not in therapy with somebody who's trying to get him to make a total transformation, then maybe you need to look at another resource to do that.
Yeah, like this sounds like a dry drunk. I'm not drinking,
Yeah.
but I'm a miserable SOB anyway. And I mean, that's, and I'm going to make everybody, but I also like avoiding answering my hundreds of questions and, what a disclosure does, which I don't think he's willing to do, but what a disclosure does is, compresses all of that. So you get the answers you want. I feel like you guys are in a in a spin cycle, because if you're constantly asking all these questions and he's going, I've answered all those, and I mean, like, it's just going to be a back and forth. So
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
we did have disclosure my questions. Well, a whole nother topic, and like, yeah, I mean, a disclosure, Dr. Rob talks about this all the time, 2 pages, it's data, it's all of that, it's not about the details.
No.
Those are
Right.
horrible when you get all of that. I mean, it's just whatever. Okay.
Well, I would
So,
try to get, yeah, we're gonna do it real fast, but I see you've been in therapy for 1.5 years, and maybe
and
if you
that's
have, I'm sure
all.
you've been there.
Yeah.
I would be there again with that therapist to say, hey, you know what? I need to just talk about things that I'm not getting here. So,
Well, and if that's all he's doing, because clearly he's not doing enough. Dr. Rob talks about all the time. If this isn't working a higher level, he needs to see the
yeah,
therapist twice a week. He needs to see the therapist 3 times a week. He
right.
needs more because that's not working. So, okay, one
Hmm,
more. Can you
yeah.
say something about whether a person needs to do shame work if they are very defensive before they are constructively carry out the help her heal actions?
Right, that's from the book Help or Heal.
Uh
And yeah,
huh.
you know what? I don't think you have to sit there and say, no, no, I have to get rid of all my shame before I can start doing any of this work with you and help you with that. I totally disagree with that concept. That again, I think that is a very inward, approach. Yes, may he struggle with it, but actually in that book, in that workbook, going through that, it should help him in dealing with his shame because again he has to continuously be confronted with it, and hopefully as he does that and he talks to the people who are supposed to be his support folks, and they start to get him to say, okay, you know what? Yes, you did. It was awful, but where are you going to go? What's the man you want to be? So again, the confidence starts to build and you start to push that shame away. But no, I think you need to be doing both. May he struggle to implement everything that's there in that book? Yes, he might, but I would still challenge him for that.
Well, and
Okay?
shame reduction happens when you're in a drop-in group with other men and you're talking about what happens and you find out, me too, me too, me too, and it
Yep.
doesn't make it okay. It just, you go, oh, I'm not, the most horrible person on the planet. I'm the only one
Right.
that's ever done this.
Hmm.
So there's all kinds of things that reduce shame on different
Mhm.
levels. It
Right.
isn't just about doing shame work. It's about doing recovery work helps us reduce our shame.
Right.
We
I'll
learn. So,
make one final comment. I know we have to
mhm.
go. I've been doing recovery for 20 years now for myself. I had a shame moment on Monday. I,
Oh,
I thought about, I thought that something came in my mind. I thought about some people and it just made me kind of cringe. But see, that's what I mean. It never fully goes away. You can't wait for it to say, okay, I have no more shame and I'm good, because it's not, that day's not going to happen. It may not hit me. That's the first time it's hit me in years, but it's going to hit you every once in a while. So,
and you have the tools to work on it. Like
yes,
you didn't have to go relapse. You went, hmm, that's interesting. I need to go address this.
correct. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, my friend. We will see everybody back in February. But next week, Troy Love will be, so he's the 4th week of the month. So we'll see you then. And lots of other resources on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Goodbye.
Bye.